Hello. Hi, Alexandre. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this EUT Innovation Talks powered by the EUT Entrepreneurship School. Thank you all for your presence here today. I am Antonia Christou from the Cyprus University of Technology. This is the first talk of a series, the Innovation Talks, which will be taking place every second Thursday of the month at 12 CET. During these talks, each month featuring a guest by a different EUT campus, we will be exploring a variety of topics focusing on innovation and entrepreneurship. The innovation talks will start with a 20 to 30-minute presentation by the guest speaker and will be followed by an engaging Q&A session. This and all talks of the series will be recorded and made available in the EUT LinkedIn page and YouTube channel afterwards. Today, we have the immense joy of having with us Dr. Alexandros Charalambidis from the Cyprus University of Technology. Hello, Alexandre.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Antonia.
I will share a few words on your background before diving in the subject of today's session, entrepreneurship in sustainable energy. So, Dr. Alexandros Charalambidis is an associate professor at the Cyprus University of Technology, working primarily on predicting energy production from solar systems and how innovation and entrepreneurship can assist in the global efforts for decarbonization. He holds a PhD in mechanical engineering from Imperial College London. He served on the board of the International Solar Energy Society, and from 2024, he serves on the board of the Electricity Authority of Cyprus. He is also the founder of Chrysalis Leap, the first clean tech accelerator in Cyprus, and has trained more than 200 entrepreneurs on how to go from a research idea to a viable business. Alexandros, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Antonia. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, and welcome to the first presentation of this series. So I will be talking more about entrepreneurship in sustainable energy, but through our activities over the past 10 years here in Cyprus, both at the Cyprus University of Technology and through Chrysalis Leap, as Antonia said, which was the first clean tech accelerator here in Cyprus. About 15 years ago, when we started working in the field of clean tech entrepreneurship, we did it because Cyprus back then was only known about tourism. So everyone knows in Cyprus about the Agia Napa, coming for the Cyprus, great beaches and so on. But we wanted to create something different. We wanted to create a clean tech hub of the region. We wanted Cyprus to be known for something else apart from tourism. And I have to admit, we jumped in directly without knowing what we're doing. So automatically, we started doing actions trying to form this clean tech hub. And through what we were doing and what we were learning, we realized some things we were doing correctly, some things we needed to step back, some things we needed to redesign, some things were going well. And these activities is not part only of the Cyprus University of Technology, which is one of the public universities here in Cyprus, working on the research part and the educational part of the activities you needed to do. It's also part of the activities of Chrysalis Leap, which is a clean tech accelerator, and the Cyprus Energy Agency, which is an NGO connecting the needs of the municipalities and the governments of sustainable development and what's out there, doing a lot of projects on that. So one of the things we automatically jumped and started doing was green business ideas competition. So we started training young researchers, young entrepreneurs. How can they go from, I have an idea in the lab, I have a pilot in the lab, moving on into a viable business? It's one of the things that we knew from personal experience as well, that academics don't always think about market, about customer. We only think about our solution, our technology, our gadgets, but we never think the whole picture. And we were kind of lucky that back then Cyprus, but other European countries as well, were at the, let's say, economically, they were not doing that well. So there was high unemployment, not a lot of other opportunities out there. So we had loads and loads and loads of entrepreneurs, researchers coming to this kind of trainings. And we thought we were doing something well. And it took us a few years to realize that this high influx of researchers coming to this competition, these accelerators, these business ideas style of training was kind of, we had a false impression of what was going on. And at some point we realized, okay, we need to start exchanging. We are not enough here in Cyprus. So we started doing summer schools so that we can go a step back. So before people even know that they have an idea, even though before they even start working on the research part of the idea, we started focusing on actually training them to understand how to think of a problem, how to think that there is a problem, how to think of a solution, with whom do they need to partner, with whom they need to talk to before even going into the idea stage. We started doing also work placements where we will send individuals from Cyprus abroad to work in businesses in clean, in sustainable energy business. All of this was always on clean tech, always on sustainable energy, to get experience and come back to Cyprus, and vice versa, people from abroad to come to Cyprus and work on their ideas. And we're actually, I have to say, we were doing quite well. So we had big exposure. So Cyprus even organized global competitions, and we brought all the startups here in Cyprus. And for the first 5 years, we were doing well. And I'll show you now some example of actual startups that came out of all these programs in the first 5 years of our operations, to get an idea of what sustainable energy startups look like, but some of them might be a bit different as well, because as I said, it was clean tech. So one of them was, it's called NanoWell. They're producing, they're inducing nanoparticles in carbon fibers, making them stronger and lighter at the same time. This, of course, can be used, you can understand, in the aerospace industry, reducing the weight of aeroplanes and so on and so on. It's easier said than done. Just because you have a good product at the lab, which it's proven that it will save money, it's proven that it will actually be stronger and lighter, it doesn't mean that the industry is ready to uptake. It doesn't mean that the production line globally will stop their production to start producing your material. And through this training, this entrepreneurship training, we helped this company, Amadema. They actually stepped back. They bought their own equipment, started producing locally, small quantities, and then down the line, they might be able to go into the aerospace. Another company is called AG Catalytic Solutions. They're producing, basically in ships, they can use this device to clean the ballast water in ships. But they realize, again, a lot of problems going into the ship industry. So with them, we help them. How can they go into carbon capture as well? So that's an option for them. I will not go into more detail in this company because they're still working on that. Another one, though, that's working very well, it's hydrogen energy systems. They have their own technology on how to produce hydrogen from desalination, basically from water. They've been at it for a few years. Again, clean, sustainable energy startups take a lot of time. It's not something that within a year you can make a product. It takes time. They started and they demonstrated their technology at the lab. They were able to demonstrate it in a very small production unit to produce hot water. So they will produce it basically in a boiler. So they incorporated their device that produces hydrogen to incorporate hydrogen into a boiler so that you can burn petrol and hydrogen together and have better, cleaner combustion. Shipping was automatically their go-to market, so a big sector. Again, so hard to go into the shipping industry because you have classification of ships, you have problems with testing, you have maybe problems with what if something explodes on the ship. So the shipping industry it's a giant that's very reluctant to change. So again, through the programs we had with them, through the mentoring, through everything, they went back to start working with big combustion inland units on dairy farms. How to produce, the relevant heat needed in a boiler to produce milk, to produce halloumi in Cyprus, if you know that, or cheese, and so on and so on. Again, years, and you need to be with them all the time. We have even smaller ones that they actually did it. He's one of our oldest entrepreneurs. He did this solar oven. He's exporting heavily in France, in Italy. This is his small unit. He has also a huge unit. He sells to Michelin star restaurants in France. He's a mad scientist. That's how I want to call him. And again, through this entrepreneurship training, we convince him that he wants someone that understands marketing, someone that understands commercialization. We find the right partners for him so that he can start selling. And we have other companies that were not quite, let's say, sustainable energy. They're doing a bit of analytics on air pollution, on water quality, and so on. So I will not go into more detail about that, but they face the same problems. How do I go from a software I have in the lab? How do I go to commercial terms? It might sound better than it was, and it wasn't everything. I mean, these startups were together with us from the beginning, and they're all of them 5 years old, at least. In the last 5 years, not so many startups came out of Cyprus, and I will tell you exactly about the problems and where did we focus. In order to have this clean tech ecosystem that we wanted to create, entrepreneurship was a very small part of it. We needed a vision. We don't have one in Cyprus. We might say we have pieces here and there of a vision. It's not there. We need a government policy. That is becoming better and better in Cyprus. We have a chief scientist, we have the deputy ministry of innovation. So you see the government is supporting this. We need academia. And here again, we lack numbers in Cyprus and other ecosystems as well, not only Cyprus. It's like, you can say it's the same in Malta, which is a similar ecosystem. You might say it's the same in Portugal. So we have researchers with good ideas. We don't have the people, the researchers behind it to help them do this research into commercialization. In Cyprus, we don't have a heavy industry. We rely on services mostly. So even if I have an idea, how can I test it? How can I find a company that will be willing to buy it? We need smart money. This is becoming better and better in Cyprus. Back then, we didn't have that. For example, now we have a government-backed VC with about 30-40 million to invest in startups. So that's going quite well. And the talent, as I said, in conjunction with academia, we do have the talent, but we kind of lack in numbers. And another thing we realized is that you need the right thing at the right time. And again, the entrepreneurship part, it's a small step in this focus. So if we see time where should we put entrepreneurship in our actions as a country to support entrepreneurship in sustainable energy, and how much investment do we want? At the first step, you need to do entrepreneurship accelerators, entrepreneurship startup workshops. So you need this small step to get everyone behind this idea of sustainable energy. And this is what we've been doing. You need to then go to the next step, which is demonstration and acceleration. That we're lacking here in Cyprus and a lot of other European countries as well. You need the involvement of the industry, you need concrete collaborations between academia and industry, you need people to equity investment, you need a lot of, as the word says, demonstration. We need to prove that the technology that we have in the lab, the technology we have piloted, it's actually technology that be commercialized. And even if the technology is great and it works, it doesn't mean that the piloting can actually materialize in commercialization. So for me, this is the biggest step that countries, universities, consortium like EUT should focus on. How do you bridge piloting with commercialization? And commercialization and growth comes, of course, at the latest stage, where you have venture funds, you have governmental policies, and so on and so on. So once we realized that, I have to say we're a bit slow. It took us 5 years to realize this process. We realized that we were doing a lot of things at the accelerator part, at the startup workshops, maybe a bit with workspace, maybe a bit with academic collaboration, but we were stuck there. So this is why we, with collaborators with Malta, we actually collaborated in a European project called MICE, Mediterranean Island Cleantech Innovation Ecosystem, which was, let's dive in and see how can research and entrepreneurship and innovation play a critical role in the national energy and climate plans. Because EU, I don't know if you know the national energy and climate plans, it's a plan that shows, it tells basically how a government will go from where they are now up to 2030, 2050, when it comes to sustainable energy and basically CO2 reduction and so on. And we realized that there was a discontinuity between what we were doing with the plans and what the governments wanted. So we went even a further step back. And we said, okay, let's see, what other regions similar to Cyprus, similar to Malta are doing so that we can copy them? How can we incorporate this idea of sustainable energy or of research, entrepreneurship, innovation? How can they all go together? And can we do it in all the fields? Do we need to specify some fields? The most important thing we did was the co-creation and the co-development process. The plan was done 3 years before we started this project. We contacted hundreds in Cyprus and in Malta, hundreds of stakeholders, ministries, departments within ministries, municipalities, stakeholders, NGOs, public bodies, and they all told us this was the first time anyone came to talk to us for us to understand what are their needs, what are their barriers, why are they not achieving the targets, what do they need for them to achieve these targets, and then based on these results to create the action plans. So we brought them all together, a lot of post-its. I know EUT likes post-its, so we use that as well. And we brought them all together and we forced them to work together. And in Malta and in Cyprus, these 4 thematics came out when you're talking about sustainable energy. One of them was the circularity in green buildings. How can we incorporate energy, low energy materials around buildings? What can we do to reduce the energy content in creating buildings? The other thing that was important was smart grid management and storage. This is something that Cyprus, Malta, and other islands need. It might not be applicable, obviously, for Germany or France. It's completely different. So it was, how can we incorporate entrepreneurship, innovation in smart grids? The third one that came out was sustainable mobility, hydrogen buses, electric cars, better urban planning, and so on. And the last thing that is not sustainable energy, but that came out as well, was agriculture. when we're talking about climate and energy, a lot of people forget the importance of agriculture. And that's something that also came out of the program. So in these 4 pillars, we talked with the stakeholders. It's like, what kind of collaborations, what kind of actions do you need? Do you just need acceleration training? Do you just need us to train researchers to go from idea to business? Do you want us to train university students to think about entrepreneurship? Do you want us to go into business and help them do intrapreneurship and help people within companies understand how can I make a company, how can I diversify the portfolio of my company and have new products? And the four things came out, and I will focus on 2 for today. One of them, they needed better collaboration between policy and academia. So academics do one thing, government wants another thing, they don't talk between them. Government wants data here, academia has the data, they don't talk between them. Or vice versa. The government has a lot of data, academics could use that data, they don't talk between them. So we created concrete actions. How can you improve this? The second thing, which I find very important, is called a regulatory sandbox. And I'll give you an example with another startup we had. This startup was focusing on floating photovoltaics. So it was photovoltaics to go in marinas, in ports, basically outside the sea coast of Cyprus. They came to Cyprus, we talked with the regulatory authority, the electricity authority of Cyprus, port authority, the owners of marinas, the owners of ports, everyone. And they even found an investment from 2 VCs here in Cyprus, but the common point was that, yes, we like this idea, but we want to test it first. Can we test it with 10 kilowatt? And if we like it, go with 10, 20 megawatt. And we found that the process to get the licensing for 10 kilowatt was the same as going for 10 megawatt. So a regulatory sandbox is where you fast track the adoption and the demonstration of these technologies for a short period of time. You test it and then you move on. So having sandboxes allows you to bring all the stakeholders together, talk, understand what's needed, understand what we can do fast, do it, test it, and then move on. And then if you want to do it properly, then of course you need to do all the procedures. It's not a way to cut corners, obviously. Another small idea, as I said, which also correlates with Action 1, is a lot about open data. For example, I had a European project on energy performance certificates of buildings. How can we use the energy data of buildings to improve them? I might have billions of data from buildings across all Europe. It's in an Excel in my computer. How can that data be used by others? And this is an example from my experience. I'm sure you all have this kind of experience with lots of data that's underused. And the last thing, that we came, that's especially important for countries like Cyprus and Malta, and they do it very well in Hawaii in the US, it's bringing technologies from abroad and testing them in your own country, especially in small ecosystems that's more easy to, let's say, monitor, evaluate, get data. For example, if someone has a new hydrogen device to produce sustainable energy from hydrogen, it's a lot harder to go to Germany and France and say, you know what, I want to test this. I'm not ready to sell, so I cannot go to full scale, but I'm not at the laboratory pilot scale. I'm at this, what is called folk part. It's first of a kind, folk, where I came out of the lab, I know it works, I'm not ready yet to commercialize it. Who can help me test it? And there you need small ecosystems. And again, that's something that we thought we could focus on. Antonia, that's all I had. Thank you everyone for your time and your attention. My email is here. So if you have any questions even after this talk, I'm more than willing to take any questions. So thank you everyone for listening, and thank you Antonia and the EUT Plus for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Alex, for the presentation. It's indeed very interesting to see the barriers, or let's say how existing limits can, shape how the entrepreneurs bring something from the lab to the market. So now we would like to open the Q&A session. If you guys have any questions, or even, I don't know, any good practice that you guys have implemented in your own countries, any nice example of a startup, please feel free to share.
Yeah, until you see any questions, Antonia. Yeah, I mean, the reason I wanted to present it in such a way is for the attendees to understand that entrepreneurship is not just the training to go from lab, from my idea into a more of a startup business. It's such a complex ecosystem that if you don't have everything together, it's quite hard to make it. And if someone makes it, it will probably be, let's say, by accident or by, I forget the name now in English, Singirie. So it was the right part, just happened to be there, not because of a process.
Okay, let's see if we have any questions. I have a question. If there aren't any here in the chat, in the meantime, you please feel free to add your questions. So one question that I have is, how do you think that European university alliances such as EUT Plus can help and promote spreading these innovations and, support these innovations coming out of countries such as Cyprus or other countries of the alliance?
The biggest asset of EUT Plus, I think its network. Is different having a university in Cyprus with 200 academics, 1,000 researchers in a field that there might not be an industry here in Cyprus. I am sure, if you go to Germany, or you go to Romania, or you go to Bulgaria, or you go to Spain, through the network, there will be the collaborators that might connect you with the industry, that might have extra support, and the vice versa as well. A student in Germany from the partner at the university in Germany, they might doing something on floating photovoltaics, for example, the same example I gave. It's easier to come to Cyprus through the university, the Cyprus University of Technology, find the relevant professors and test the technology here. So I think of EUT Plus as not 7 universities of some academics, some researchers, but one body of 1,000 professors and tens of thousands of students.
Okay, great. So maybe you could give us some examples where the Cypriot ecosystem could be a nice test bed for. So you have mentioned some examples. Maybe you want to add some more examples.
Yeah, well, I'll give an example of a law that we have with the Cyprus Regulatory Authority. There is a process that if you have an innovative technology to produce sustainable energy, you can come to Cyprus, you can connect on the grid, there is a process, you can connect on the grid, you will not get paid for the electricity you produce or to test this device, but you will get a full report certified by the Cyprus Regulatory Authority of how much energy you produce, if there were any problem with the frequency when your device was connected on the grid, with the stability of your device producing sustainable energy, And that then you can use that to go to any other country in the world and find clients, Cyprus as well, of course, but you have, let's say, a seal of approval, if I can call it like that, that you didn't destroy the grid.
Okay, great. I have one. Okay, can you see the question, or do you want me to? So from your point of view, how could the EUT Plus Alliance help facilitate first of a kind? What policies should be implemented and assumed by the 9 universities in the Alliance?
Okay. The problem with folk is that you need the government support. So that's, again, if the Alliance goes behind and, let's say, lobbies the governments that we want your support in doing this folk, it's much, much stronger than me as an academic in Cyprus going to the government of Cyprus pushing for this. Then if all the EUT universities come together and they say, out of all our research, out of all the ideas, out of all the departments, we pinpoint 3 types of sustainable energy, of some kind of research that we want to do this kind of folks, then it becomes stronger. It could be, for example, grid management, just because that's something I work with. But it could also become with wastewater treatment, a new way of doing wastewater treatment. No authority in any country will change the system of cleaning their water to test something of a new idea that came out of one of these universities. If all the universities came together, it means that the idea might come from Cyprus, but it might be better to be tested in the Romanian partner because the timing is right. So this kind of lobbying alliance, this lobbying alliance to find the right technologies and where they can be tested, that's, I think, the policy, the advantage. Policies is just the government allowing for this to happen. You don't need new laws. You don't need, you need some money, obviously, but then that's easy. You can always find money.
Okay, great. So following the action plan that you have presented, Alex, I don't know if there were any specific actions which were implemented in between, or I don't know if the government has chosen some of these elements to work with or to experiment with.
I will put, I don't know if I will go back to my slides so you can visit. Let me see, present, sorry. Let me go back so that so I can have my, okay, here it is. Let me go back to the presentation. So can you see my presentation now, right?
No, you cannot.
Okay, let me find why not, because I didn't press share. So if you go to this website, you can find actually the action plan we did and the blueprint of how we did it. So the action plan for Cyprus and Malta is of no interest to the rest of the participants. But we also have the blueprint of what steps you need to do. I will tell one positive and one negative. You told me I shouldn't be too negative, so I'll put also some positive here as well. In the case of Cyprus, they disregarded this action plan and nothing happened afterwards. We tried to secure funding through Horizon so that we can implement sandboxing and folk, but we were unsuccessful. In the case of Malta, though, they incorporate in their national energy and climate plan, in the research and innovation part of the NSAPs, they included the results of our studies. And the action plan said who needs to do what, when, how much money they want to do, how do you measure the success, what are the KPIs, how do you monitor the KPIs, how long it will take you, what do you need to do when. All of that was incorporated in the NSAP of Malta. In the case of Cyprus, it wasn't.
Okay, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, great. Let me check if there are any other open questions. No. Okay. So maybe I will have a last question, unless more come up in the chat. How do you see, so being in the board of the Cyprus Electricity Authority and having, a nice overview of the technological advancements of sustainable energy and how it's implemented in the countries, not only Cyprus. How do you see the future of sustainable energy, like introducing the technological advancements, storage of renewables? To just give us your thoughts on
there two things. The electricity industry, which someone might say the same with the shipping industry, with the construction industry, because of the hundreds of years of history, not they're reluctant to change, but they're very slow to change. And when something works, it's very hard to test something new. With IT, let me try a new app, that's okay. Oh, I have a new device, mobile, whatever, that's easy to test. When something works, like the production of electricity, it's very hard to change. So it's not, let's say, the fault of Cyprus or Cyprus Electricity Authority. It's everywhere globally that these kind of organizations are very slow to adapt new technologies. And it makes sense. Are you, Antonia, willing not to have electricity for 1 hour every day because they will test a new device that will produce sustainable energy? Probably not. So in order for these companies to incorporate these technologies, they need to be tested, they need to be piloted, they need to be demonstrated. So there is no technological or commercialized risk for companies like the Electricity Authority of Cyprus and others. So how do you do this? This is what we talked before. And the second thing I want to say is that at the end, the public wants things to be cheap. You cannot, or at least my personal opinion, you cannot force people to use something which is not to their convenience. And even if you subsidize a lot of things, in the end, it doesn't push. So for me, you should spend a lot of money on research, on innovation, to make your technology cheaper than the traditional one. And this is what we've seen happening with photovoltaics. Photovoltaics now, at least in Cyprus and in a lot of other countries, it's much cheaper than producing energy in the conventional way. So you don't need to push for it. The public is supporting that. And the same thing will happen with batteries. The same thing might happen with hydrogen, with whatever else. So you need to focus on how do I make my research and my product cheaper, rather than trying to push it down the throat of the public or of a company or someone else.
Okay, thank you, Alex. We have one question regarding IP protection. So do you consider that IP protection is important in this field?
Both yes and no. Yes, you need to have an IP to show that what I'm doing is something different. But if someone, let's say you have an IP of a sustainable energy device in Cyprus, and someone in a big country, I'm not going to say a country so that I don't cause any diplomatic problems, they steal your idea and they produce it in that country. What are you going to do? You are a startup. You are 2-3 individuals, an academic and maybe a marketeer. Do you have the funds to sue them? No. Do you have the funds to do anything about it? No. So having an IP doesn't mean that your technology will be protected and that it will be promoted everywhere. But if you don't have an IP where you might put some value behind it for an investor, or for the investor to believe that you might have something, it's not everything, but it's something.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Alex. It was very insightful, very interesting presentation and the answers to the questions. As I can see, there are no remaining questions. As Alexandros shared his email, if there are any new questions arising, you can always contact him or directly EUT Plus. So great. And just to remind you that the next innovation talk will be on the second Thursday of November, and we will be hearing from the co-founder of Highlight Startup, entitled From UTT to the Y Combinator, the story of Martin Boken. Thank you all for joining today. Thank you, Alex, again for your presence, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Antonia. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.